Hello and welcome to the Tea Party Howdy channel. I have an article today about Silicon Valley Bank as well as Stanford University and how the rich and the elite keep getting to get away with everything at the expense of the non-elite. It's not just that they're getting away with it, it's that they're charging the poor people and the middle class people to pay for it. So let's take a look at this article and you can see what's going on. This is written by Michael Barone, who's mostly a middle-of-the-road guy. That's one of the reasons I was surprised that he wrote this. But apparently even they are getting fed up with it all. Woke Silicon Valley, Sandy Hill Road, and Stanford Law get off scot-free. Turns out that Silicon Valley Bank is on Sand Hill Road, according to him. Okay, so let's see. Thursday, March 9th, at a Federalist Society event featuring Federal Fifth Circuit Judge Kai Duncan, such shout-downs of speakers violate law school policy at Stanford University, where he was doing a presentation. But let's see, what do we got? Such shout-down speakers violate law school policy, but none of the 6 school administrators in the room objected. Instead, the DEI, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Dean, Tyrion Steinbach, read an 8-minute prepared statement, including criticisms of the judge for threatening basic rights for marginalized communities. Such campus thuggery has become common only from the left to the right. You have no examples of the right doing this because, as it stands, not only is it not in the right's personality, but if it does become in their personality, as we found out with January 6th, you learned real fast that you can have an entire summer of riots and $2 billion worth of damages and dozens of people killed, and 93%, I believe, was the number of people that were not prosecuted, but were let go during the George Floyd riots, whereas the situation with January 6th, which was 2 hours, the only person killed, no matter what the president and all those other people keep telling you, you can look it up because they are lying to you. The only person killed was a MAGA supporter, the Air Force lady who was shot in the neck and bled to death. No cops were killed on that day at the event. No fires were started. So, again, it's become commonplace on campuses, most notably at Yale Law School, of which Michael Barone's a graduate, on March 10th of last year. So apparently it's March Madness all over again. On Friday, the Stanford Law School dean issued an apology, but seemed to excuse the DEI administrator by saying, however well-intentioned attempts at managing the room in this instance went awry on Sunday. The law school dean and the university president issued a more forthright apology, admitting that the staff members who should have enforced university policies failed to do so. The reason they failed to do so is because, watch this, on March 13th, Monday, hundreds of law students lined the halls to intimidate the law school dean for apologizing. Have you ever heard the expression, the inmates running the asylum? That's what they mean by this happening. The law students lined to intimidate the law school dean for apologizing. That's the inmates running the asylum. It's not even a metaphor. Despite the apologies, no one seems to be contemplating any punishment or sanctions for the students or the DEI apologist. And that's why they keep doing it. Because not only do they not get in trouble, their power gets enhanced because they didn't get in trouble for lining the halls and then doing the intimidation. And the list goes on and on and on. They're being rewarded. The justification of the DEI dean summarized is some students feeling that their sense of belonging is undermined. What happened to the expression, so what? Get over yourself? Popular expressions that maybe need to return in certain circumstances by the judge's opinions. That echoes the frequent woke complaint that speech is violence, of course asserted by people threatening violence to suppress speech. Okay, so that's the situation with Stanford. Now, we also have SVB, the Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank's demise, the second biggest bank failure in the United States history, and of course followed then 2 days later by the third largest with Signature Bank, and now another one's gone down. At the time of this recording, it's only been 3, but there's the fourth one in Europe that's teetering. Anyways, history has sparked demands for increased or different banking regulations, yet it appears that the failure resulted not from weak regulations, but from bad decisions by people blessed, like the Stanford law students, with high cognitive ability and ensconced in available institutional niches. In other words, the coddled rich. SVB executives, absorbing an inrush of deposits from Silicon Valley techies, decided to invest heavily in long-term bonds without hedging against the risk of higher inflation rates. Anything that anyone who reads financial news saw coming. Any news at all. They've been talking about the Fed raising rates for over a year now. Well over a year. They did so even though 93% of the deposits were above the $250,000 limit on Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insurance. The predictable result was that when the interest rates rose, the depositors sensed weakness and rushed to yank their money out, instituting a classic bank run. Okay, and then he asked the very wise question, where were the bank executives? Were they preoccupied with at least part of their time with the advancing women and black and Latinx individuals to positions of influence, or their DEI program and funneling $74 million to Black Lives Matter causes, which we know has allowed several of the Black Lives Matter leaders to have beautiful homes in California hills in very elite areas that, oddly enough, they may be the only black people living in those neighborhoods, and that's where they chose to live with their Black Lives Matter's money. Where were the West Coast bank regulators? Dozing off, apparently. There's another article that showed that the bank also contributed $100,000 to Gavin Newsom's wife in the last year, to which Gavin Newsom solicited the money. So that's its own little entanglement. We'll see where that goes. But what this is showing us is that in each of these instances, none of these people are getting punished. And with the idea that we're now going to pay the depositors who were well over $250,000, some of them into the multi-million, which means they're not poor people. We are now taking the money from the poor people in the middle class to pay the affluent to screw up, to get woke, and then go broke, and then, oh, no, we're not going to let you stay broke. We're going to use our money from the poor people and middle class to bail you out. I am a strong supporter of this channel's Tea Party Hardy. I am a strong supporter of the American Revolution and our founding fathers. That's why I chose the name Tea Party Hardy. I am not one who supports the French Revolution's tactics with the terror, followed by the Great Terror, the invention of the guillotine, to allow the Great Terror to go on in a much more clinical way. However, after living in the times we're living in, where we see these elite, rich, coddled people. It's one thing to be rich. Congratulations. It's another thing to be elite. Wow, all the more congratulations, rare air, as they say. But those two things are not supposed to equal in the United States of America, or really anywhere else that claims to have justice. It's not supposed to equal, and now you can get away with whatever you want. Murdaugh is in jail because he didn't get away with everything that he wanted. The list of people that did get away with whatever they wanted is this what we're looking at. This is what we're looking at with Silicon Valley, with Stanford Law, with Yale Law. All of these people who are breaking the known rules and getting away with it. We saw it when they were protesting Brett Kavanaugh's house and some of the other Supreme Court justices during Roe versus Wade, in the lag time. And it's against the law to protest at judges' houses to influence decisions for the courts. And Biden's people refused to enforce it, while at the same time, they were sending armed SWAT squads to go get the people that are anti-abortion. and they were arresting them with militant M16 carriers or whatever the rifles were, the heavy machinery, and they're dragging them out of their houses, etc. So, again, Tea Party Hardy channel for the American Revolution, not for the French Revolution, but I'm starting to see something that the French people saw. I don't want to go to guillotines. I really don't. I don't want to go to the Terror. I don't want to go to the Great Terror. But what if the Terror and the Great Terror is being imposed currently on the conservatives that are constantly being punished and prosecuted for things that the other side is not? And this is the reality. This isn't in question. You could kind of see why the French people got so mad. But it wasn't, in their time, it wasn't an instance of the rich people getting away with breaking the laws. They weren't. So we're way worse than what happened in the French Revolution. We're unbelievably far away from what happened in the American Revolution. To put it more succinctly, we are in a really screwed up time doing really screwed up things. And if you have additional comments you'd like to add in the comment section, please add. Say, oh no, you're wrong. Everything's peachy keen. It's wonderful that the lefties get to get away with all this stuff. We need to keep rewarding all these banks for doing bad things so that other banks can do bad things. That's the way, that's the American way for the 21st century. Okay, well, you feel free to drop that in there. We thank you for watching, and we will see you in the future.